Hello students, today's agenda is to check homework. We'll be learning about variable coefficients and you will be able to do 2.9b. Today students will be able to rewrite formulas by solving for a variable. So in some of these cases, they just give us formulas, but it will be nice to know what they represent. So I'm going to share some information about it, although we're not going to go into depth with each one. So in here, for number one, it says solve for R in the formula for the annual interest rate. So this is talking about the annual interest rate. The I represents the total amount of interest that you pay. The P represents the principal, the amount of money that you borrowed. The R represents the rate, the interest rate that you're paying for that amount. And then T represents the time in years, okay? When you're solving for a variable, it means to isolate that variable. So we need to leave R by itself. Addition cancels with subtraction and vice versa. And multiplication cancels with division and vice versa. So addition is the opposite of subtraction, and division and multiplication are opposite of each other. And also, when you have a number to the second power, well, that second power cancels with the square root. Okay, so that's something that we need to know. Addition and subtraction cancel each other, division and multiplication cancel each other, and square cancels with square root, and square root cancels with square. Okay, they cancel each other. Having that in mind, now let's start solving. So in here, the interest that you pay at the end of paying all your debt is equals to the amount that you owe times the rate times the T that stands for time. Since this is multiplication, the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide by the variables that we don't need. So in this case, we want to isolate R. So we isolate that one. We don't cancel that one. So what we're going to cancel, and we can do it at once, dividing by P and dividing by T at the same time. If we do it on one side, we have to do it on the other side. P divided by P, they cancel, but it's because P divided by P is 1. And then T divided by T, it's 1. And 1 times 1 is 1. And 1 times R is R. So that's what it means when you cancel. It doesn't just disappear. It's just because you have a 1 in there, which would be the coefficient of R, but we don't need to put it. On the other side, on the left, we cannot simplify anything else or cancel anything, so we just bring down the way it is. The total interest that you pay divided by the principal times time is equals to the ratio that you will be paying. We can rewrite it as R equals I divided by PT. And that will be our answer. Have this in mind or copy it somewhere else where you can have it visible. So number 2, below is the formula for temperature. Solve for F. And temperature, some people know it as Celsius. Some people know it as Fahrenheit. It was interesting to see because in class, some people say, oh, I know how to read the temperature in Celsius. Others say in Fahrenheit. And we did the translation, and it was interesting because one of the students said, oh, today was around 36, 37. And somebody else said it was about 96. And we actually plugged in the information. And guess what? It came out very close to what they said. With decimals, of course, but it was interesting to see that comparison. Some information about temperature is that when it's in Celsius, 0 is the freezing point. Around the close to 0 degrees, that's when water starts freezing. In Fahrenheit, it's around 32 degrees in Fahrenheit. Okay, interesting facts. Okay, how would you solve for F? What that means is leave F by itself. Isolate F. You're multiplying this whole parenthesis times 5/9. But there's a trick that I want to show you. So when you have a fraction, what you want to do is, instead of dividing, if you're multiplying by this fraction, the way to cancel it is to multiply by its reciprocal. So instead of 5/9, it will be 9/5. And I'll show you why. So again, when we're multiplying by a fraction, to cancel it, we are going to multiply but by 9/5. Okay? The 5 goes down, the 9 goes up. And if we do it on one side, we have to do the same thing on the other side. Times 9/5. Again, when you have fractions, just switch the numerator and denominator, but it continues to be a multiplication. Why does that happen? Well, when we divided up there, we said that p divided by p is 1, and that's what we want. When we're canceling, we want a 1 as a coefficient for the variable that we're solving. In this case, 5. In multiplication of fractions, remember that we multiply straight. So 5 times 9 gives me 45. 9 times 5 is also 45. And 45 divided by 45 is equals to 1, which is the coefficient that we want, right? However, we don't write it. It just means that they cancel just like we did in the previous one. What do we have left? F minus 32. And on the other side, just bring that down. This is multiplication, so it's just 9/5 of C. Finally, if we're subtracting 32 to leave F by itself, we have to do the opposite, which is add 32. If we do it on one side, we have to do it on the other side. And let me rewrite this a little lower. So now we have 9/5 of C plus 32. In here, this cancels, and now I only have F. To rewrite it, we say that to find anything as Fahrenheit, the temperature in Fahrenheit, what we need to do is get 9/5 of C and add 32 degrees. So let me show you. So somebody said that the degrees was about 36 degrees in Celsius. All you have to do is put 36 in here. When I tell them, bring the rest down, 9/5 plus 32, what would the Fahrenheit be? We'll see. When we're multiplying a fraction times a whole number, I just say do it all at once. Multiply by the numerator and divide by the denominator. So 36 times 9 and then divided by 5 equals. That's 64. So Fahrenheit equals 64.8 plus 32. I add 64.8 plus 32 equals. So somebody told me, oh, it was around 36, 37 degrees yesterday. Others say, no, it was about around 95, 90, 96. And notice how when you add 64.8 plus 32 is 96.8 degrees. So this part you don't have to do. It's just solving for the formula for F, isolating F in terms of Celsius. But it's interesting to see how it would be applied and how the two temperatures compare. For the next one, it says the surface area of a rectangular prism is surface area, or S, equals 2 times the length times width plus 2 times the length times height plus 2 times the width times height. Solve for L, or solve for the length. So it's just a box. And so what I want you to understand just super fast is that 2 represents the fact that there are two faces with the same measurement. So like the top and bottom are the same, the front and back are the same, and then the left and right are the same. Okay, so there are 2 of each type. That's why you have 3 groups of those faces, if it makes sense. Okay, so let me rewrite the formula right here. Now it says to solve for L, so the one that we are going to isolate is this one right here. However, you have it in 2 different terms, and that's when it gets a little tricky, but not impossible. So we cannot touch those 2 terms yet. What we need to cancel is the other term that which does not have a length. So if we're adding 2 times W times H, we're going to subtract that term. We do it on both sides of the equal sign. In here, it cancels. And now we have the surface area minus those two sides equals, and now we only have on this side of the equal sign, we only have these two terms. Now we want to leave L by itself, but it's trapped in two terms. So what we need to do is get this L. Is the opposite of distributive property, so we're going to get it out here, and then we start dividing each term by L. So 2 times L times W divided by L. Well, for that division, the L cancels and you only have 2 times W. We do the same thing with the other term, and so 2 times L times H divided by L. The L cancels for that one too, and we get 2H. I said that it's the same as when they have distributive property 2 times x plus 5, for example. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 5 is 10. But what if they didn't give us that, and what they wanted is for us to factor it? So we look for a number that multiplying both gives us, that goes into both 2 and 10 is 2. And we start dividing. That's what we did here. So it's the opposite of distributive property. We divide 2x divided by 2. Well, the 2 cancels. We only get x. 10 divided by 2 gives us 5. Notice how we get 2 times x plus 5. 2 times x plus 5. So it's the opposite, basically. And that's what we're doing on this side. And it now allows us to leave a little bit L by itself so that we can cancel this. We bring S minus 2W on this side. The final step is that if we're multiplying L times this factor or parentheses, then we can divide by that factor or parentheses, which is 2W divided by 2W plus 2H. And if we do it on one side, we have to do it on the other side. This divided by the same thing equals 1, which we don't put. And so we get L equals, rewrite this as surface area minus 2 times width times height divided by, we can put it now without parentheses, 2 times width plus 2 times height. And so that will be our answer. However, remember that you can rewrite it as having L first or to the left. So we put L equals, and then just rewrite this. So that will be our final answer. Number 4 says the volume of a cone can be found with the formula V equals pi r squared times height times h divided by 3. Solve for r. So we need to isolate this variable right here, which has a square, and we also have to cancel that. Okay, so what is a cone and what is volume? Volume is all the space that fits inside of this cone, and what we're trying to find is this distance right here in terms of the height and the volume. Remembering that addition cancels with subtraction, multiplication cancels with division, and also division cancels with multiplication, square cancels with square root. Okay, have that in mind. 2 of these pairs. Okay, so addition with subtraction or subtraction with addition, multiplication cancels with division, division cancels with multiplication, and the square cancels with the square root, and the square root cancels with the square. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to cancel in here is the division of 3. If we're dividing by 3, the opposite is to multiply by 3. 3 times v is 3v. These cancels, and now we only have pi r squared times h. Now, what we want to do is cancel the multiplication. Multiplication cancels with division. And we're going to cancel the multiplication of pi and h at once. And so if we're multiplying, the opposite is to divide. And if we do it on one side, we do it on the other. So divide by pi times h. Pi divided by pi is 1. H divided by h is 1. And now we only have r squared. In here, we cannot simplify anything, so we're just going to bring it down. So 3v divided by pi times h. Finally, we said that the square cancels with the square root. So that square, we're going to cancel it with the square root. If we do it on one side, we have to do it on the other. The square cancels with the square root. And now we only have r. And on the other side, we can't do anything else, so we just bring it down the way it is. The square root of 3 times the volume divided by pi times height. We can rewrite it to leave r on the left side. So the radius is equals to the square root of 3 multiplied by the volume divided by pi times height. And that's going to be our answer. Well, now we have learned a couple of different concepts put into action by solving for one of the variables, different types of formulas. Thank you for supporting our channel by giving us a thumbs up, subscribing around here. This is the video of the next lesson, and right here you can find the entire unit. Now you're able to do 2.9b and have fun.